Hello everybody and welcome to DC Fine Art. Today we are doing a mixed media piece and it'll be a color pencil piece with acrylic for the background. I am working on this Arches hot press watercolor paper, 140 pounds, and I end up taking an individual sheet off and taping it to a board. And then this right here is the reference photo that I am using to create this piece. It is from Pixabay, so anybody can go over to Pixabay and get this photo. So it is free, royalty free for you to use. If the artist or the photographer that's usually on there, you can always give them a little tip or, give them good comments on their picture that they took. So it's really nice to have Pixabay on there. I know I do a couple of my photographs and put it on Pixabay. But anyways, besides that, I'm showing you the very beginning steps of how I do my process of starting out a color pencil piece. Now this is something that I do. It's not something that you have to do. This is just what I basically do. I grab a hold of like my individual pencils. Like here I put DL for Derwent lightfast. I write down all the colors that I think that would be great for using for the strawberry, and then I do a color swatch. And so I go all the way through this and picking out the different colors within the brand, and I write the brand name on the top with an initial, and then I go down and do my color swatches. Now, do I use every single color that I put down on these swatches? Absolutely not. I do not. It's just a way for me to look at my color swatch and be able to know, okay, these are the reds that I got that I thought were similar. And then I look at my picture or my reference photo and I kind of compare them off of those colors. So it's kind of like a process of elimination for me. So I do that. Now, I know a lot of artists on there always say, it's hard to tell each and every individual color that they use because, there is just a lot of colors. If you look at the swatches that I do of my colors all the way down on this, I may use quite a bit of them. I may not use every single one of them. So there may be 1, 2, possibly 3 that I might not use of the reds, but I could end up jumping around using some of these other reds. And if you don't do color swatches like this, which I know a lot of artists don't, they don't really do, color swatches, or sometimes they just pick up a pencil and just use it, then it's really hard to keep track of all the colors. And that's kind of the same thing I'm kind of showing here is whenever I do a process of elimination, you kind of have all these colors and it's really hard to tell you exactly which color I use because I jump around with the different colors. But anyways, so this is the first steps that I do. Now, whenever I taped my piece of paper down on the board, if you can see behind me, it already has black on there outlining the picture, and you can kind of see that through the glycine that I have taped over it, which is just a protection to keep it from, having any dust or anything get on it. So that black I used an airbrush with, and I used Frisket, which is basically it's like a sticky film that you can end up cutting out and then putting it on your strawberry or whatever it is that you're not wanting to get painted. And then after you stick it down over the top of it, then you can take your airbrush or whatever it is you're using, and I used an airbrush with black and went over it. And then after it dried, I removed that Frisket film, and that's how I got my strawberry. Now, things that I've learned whenever I was doing this, since I did just get an airbrush and still learning on it, is that I kind of layered that black a little bit thick. So I do have like a little bit of a line or a lip, or maybe where it kind of started to drip underneath of the Frisket because I didn't actually seal it properly all the way around. So I did have some experiences of what to do better the next time. So it's kind of a learning process with me when it comes to airbrushing and using the Frisket. But that's always a good thing. Now, whenever we go into the video, I'll be doing like a speed video where it kind of speeds through it all. And then toward the middle, I would say middle/end, I don't know the exact minute that it's on, but I will actually have the stills again, the still photos where it's step by step on how to create some of the water droplet. And it's a little water droplet that comes up off the top of the strawberry. And I did a still on that, kind of listing the colors that I used. And it doesn't mean that you have to use those colors. And then I just kind of went through how I got that droplet. Now, all right, now here's my color swatch of all the different colors that I thought that would be closest or similar to the strawberry that I'll be doing today. Doesn't mean I'm using all these colors, but you can just see by the list of all these different colors, you kind of wonder why some of them, well, you're probably thinking they don't really go with it, or maybe you didn't see that color. Sometimes I think that I'll mix these colors with some of my other colors in order to get the correct color that I'm needing. So that's why it gets really complicated with the amount of colors being used for this piece, because you've got a lot of mixing and matching and yeah, it's a whole thing. But I mean, you learn that as you go, so you don't have to get too overwhelmed. You don't need these exact colors in order to create this piece neither, or the brands. I mean, it's all up to you. Now here I'm going ahead and starting the color pencil piece. I'm kind of working with the bottom of the water, and I will be using, going over these a couple layers. Everything I'm looking at the reference photo and going off of it. And I always zoom into my reference photo too, so that way I can see a little bit better of what colors are in that one color. I mean, it's really, you just really got to zoom in on it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to see exactly if it's a little bit more toned here or there with the dark, because you can, within a dark, like, it's not just black, but you'll see like maybe a little bit of a gray or a blue that's around that black, and then the shadow within it. And that's what I kind of look at whenever I'm trying to make water or anything dark, is by really zooming in on that reference photo and looking at it. Now here I am using the OMS, which is I use Gamsol odorless mineral spirits to be able to blend out my color pencil. And I do this so that way I get rid of some of that grainy texture of the pencil. It smooths it out, blends it nicely, and then I'm able to come back and actually layer more color pencil on top of it. So it gives me a little bit more room to be able to layer and put more layers on top of the color pencil that way. Otherwise, it wouldn't take it anymore, and you would just be coloring over it, and it still wouldn't take. So that is the reason why I use OMS, is to lengthen up and to where I can apply more layers to it. I guess I said that right. That was kind of difficult. And see here on some of the black water, I was using not just a black, I was using black on it, but then I would come over the top with maybe an ocean blue, or it's like called a dark ocean blue. And then I would use, to darken it up even more, I would use it's the midnight black and I think it's Derwent, midnight black. And I use that midnight black because it has some blue in it. And that makes it so much more deeper and richer and darker of a black than just using straight black. Plus that My picture that I'm doing here is, compared to the reference photo, it is not identical. I kind of changed up a few things. I kind of added in more of a blue color to it because I wanted more of these bluish tones in there. So everything that I picked out was more toward the blue side for the water. So whenever it comes to choosing the exact colors, not even mine is exact at all. And that's just preference. I did not want to try and, I wanted more of like a tone difference. Like instead of it being more of a gray tone, which it had on there, it looked more to the reference photo as being more gray. I wanted more of a blue gray. So instead of using like a slate gray or, a gray that is more like, I would say more flat. That's what I want to say. I want to say it's more of a flatter gray. But I wanted to use something with more blues. So I would pick out more of my Payne's gray and go from there with the Payne's because I know it has more bluish tone in it. And then I would go with my ocean blues or my dark ocean blues, my, midnight blue, instead of using a Mars black, because there is a Mars black in the Derwent Lightfast, I believe. And that one has more of a brownish tone to it. So I wanted to stay away from those and kind of lean toward the blues. Now on the water, I didn't use straight white for it. Of course, you can kind of see. I did use some, I think it's like some of the Payne's gray, but there's like 50% or 60% Payne's gray, which is more darker. And then they got some lighter ones with the percentage. And I've used some of those. So I was using a lot of the Payne's grays. I was using, and there I am with the OMS kind of blending out the bigger areas. I did use some of the white, but I used it over the top of some of where it was like more highlighted area. Then I would use the white. Now, if your color pencil does not take on the white, like making it super, super white, or it doesn't want to take any of the white from your color pencil, so you're not able to get it no matter what you do, don't worry about that, because toward the end of this piece, I am going to go back through with a titanium, it's by Brush and Pencil, it's a titanium white powder mixture, and I'm going to show you guys how to use that stuff and use that in conjunction with the touch-up texture to try and add a white, like a bright white, to your piece, and it still be archival, it still be good to sell if you guys are interested in selling any of your artwork. If not, you can use other things I think that there is out there. But if you're wanting to stick with the archival stuff, I will definitely be showing you that, and that'll be toward the end. That's where I'm going to get my brightest whites, by using that. Now, I did not try my Derwent Chinese white on this, and usually I always do, because it's my favorite pencil for getting the brightest whites, and I did not use it on this one. I'm thinking I might go back and try it, but even if it doesn't, I'll still be showing you guys the titanium white powder mixture from Brush and Pencil to show you how to get the brightest whites. So there's no worries. And as far as like the droplets of water that's coming up onto where the black airbrush is, it doesn't really like to take color pencil on top of it, and it may be just because I added so much of the airbrush paint to it. But I was thinking of going ahead and using my acrylic paints just to paint in some water droplets that are on the outside on that acrylic paint that I airbrushed on. So I'm not going to use color pencil on my airbrush black, but I will be using acrylic paint, and that's how I'm going to get those droplets on there. And it may be just because I added way too much of the black paint, but that, I'm new to the whole airbrushing thing, so I need to try it and experiment doing it the other way. Just lightly instead of so much. Really got carried away. And here I'm just using my blues and some of the gray tones. And then I even have an Arctic white that I've been using. It has a little bit more of a teal or a bluish kind of tint to it. That is really super nice. I really like that pencil, and I like using it because it kind of brings out some of those colors and that I like to kind of pop, not just a straight white, but you got like a little bit of a teal or a bluish color in the white. And it really does, I like that pencil. That's one of my favorites. And once you get your darks layered in and it's already dried, because you want to let your mineral spirits actually dry before you go on top of it again. But adding in your darks and then going over with like your lightest color, and it really does layer on top of it nicely, adding in a small ripple effect. So like your color pencil won't be really super bright with the I think I was using like the silver or the really light silver or Payne's gray, really light one. But when you go over the top of like the black, and you kind of make those water lines or those watermarks just by going over it, it really does show up nicely. So I kind of got really carried away with that. So there's my darks. I'm not doing exactly to the reference photo. I'm just kind of doing my own thing in a way, but still trying to follow the same line pattern, should I say. If the lines are going across in one way, I'm still trying to follow that same pattern while doing my piece as to the reference photo, but not doing the lines identical to the reference photo. And also, whenever I start getting into these pieces, or at least this part of the reference photo, or not reference, but the piece, I'm looking at the reference photo for the darkest areas within the water. And I'm putting in my darkest areas with the black and the midnight black and the ocean blue, just kind of adding in those colors within that dark area. And that's how I come up with the darkest part. And I'll be able to show you that in these step-by-step stills too, on how I'm creating this very slowly. So that way, maybe it might make a little bit better sense than me going through it really quickly. But I put in those darkest areas first. That way it kind of gives me an idea of where some of these colors start and stop. It just gives me a mapping area where, where I'm at within the reference photo. So by putting in some of these dark areas, I'm like, okay, this is where I'm at. These are where these other colors need to go around. Now in some of the lightest parts, so that way I don't cover them all up, I will use a white color pencil and go ahead and mark in some of my lightest areas. And that way, whenever I go back over it, it doesn't darken it completely. It still has the white of the wax of the color pencil underneath, and I can still see where it's at, and I'm still able to brighten it or lighten it up a lot more than if I didn't do it. So let's go ahead and go on to the stills. All right, here is the reference photo, kind of zoomed in. And then I'm going to go ahead and zoom it in one more time so you guys can get a better look at it. And we are going to be doing these stills here step by step on how to get that drop. I hope you guys enjoyed those stills of the step-by-step on how I get a water droplet to look like a water droplet. And also, the only difference between, I mean, I'm doing the same thing throughout this whole entire piece. If you're looking at that water droplet, you're seeing step by step on what I do. I do the same exact thing throughout this whole entire piece, except for I do not use OMS on small areas. And the reason I don't do that is just because it's a really tiny detailed area. I don't want to blur it out or mess it up. I want those crisp details in there. Now, if you're wanting it to be more smooth looking, then you're just going to have to either burnish or use maybe a color pencil blender in order to get that kind of look with a small area. But other than that, I do not like using my OMS in teeny tiny areas like that. I only use them for bigger areas, kind of like what I'm doing right now in this bigger area. And yeah, if you're new here and you like this video, please click the like and subscribe. That definitely helps me bunches. And if you are already subscribed, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. You all mean the world to me. So yeah, definitely. And if you're wanting me to keep on going with these stills, if these stills are helping you, the step-by-step little stills that I kind of put in on, I did this on the last two videos, or at least last video and then this video. If you're still liking that for the little tips or little things like that, please leave a like. That way I know that you guys still enjoy it. And if you have any questions or comments, yeah, I definitely love to see those too. Anything to help this channel grow is great. I love to hear you guys' feedback. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and let this play out so that way you can see me finishing off the rest of the strawberry. Or at least not the strawberry. My goodness, we're not going that far. Finish off some of the water here. And yeah, and you guys have a great day. See you on the next video. Bye.